John had always been the type of person who kept moving forward. At 62 years old, retired from the transportation industry, he maintained an active routine, tending the garden, taking his grandkids to school, and even helping neighbors with small repairs. He took pride in his energy. When he began to feel more tired climbing the stairs at home, he blamed it on the heat, his age, or a busy day. "Totally normal, right?" he would say to his wife. After a certain age, the body complains more. But his body wasn't just complaining. It was trying to warn him. The episodes started happening more often. First, shortness of breath. Then, a slight pressure in his chest while walking through the grocery store. One Sunday, while mowing the lawn, he felt a strange discomfort in his left arm. It wasn't a sharp pain, just a brief, tingling numbness. He paused for a few minutes, drank some water, and went on as if nothing had happened. "I must have slept on my arm last night," he joked. His wife suggested seeing a doctor, but he brushed it off. He hated hospitals, tests, waiting rooms. Deep down, he believed that admitting something was wrong meant showing weakness. John had been raised to endure, to push through. He grew up hearing that real men tough it out. The following Tuesday, around 7 p.m., while watching the evening news, he felt a tight, crushing pain in the center of his chest, as if something were pushing from the inside out. Cold sweat broke out. He tried to stand, but his legs gave out. His wife rushed to his side, called an ambulance, and he was taken to the hospital in a hurry. The diagnosis: acute myocardial infarction. John survived, but he was shaken, physically and emotionally. During rehab, he cried while talking to the doctor. "I had so many warnings, and I didn't listen." Today, when he talks about the incident, he always repeats the same phrase: "If the symptom keeps coming back, it's not normal. The body doesn't insist for no reason." That was the first sign he ignored, one of many that often go unnoticed because we're taught to downplay what we feel. But the heart, unlike us, never exaggerates. The guilt after the scare. This time, it's Ashley speaking, Mary's only daughter. Mary is a 68-year-old woman known in the neighborhood for her strong personality and cheerful voice. She was the type who never let things fall apart. Even after being widowed for over a decade, she carried on with life independently and proudly. In the months leading up to the scare, Ashley started noticing small changes. Her mother, who used to love going on evening walks, began turning them down. She'd say the sun was too strong or that her legs were feeling a little lazy. She also complained more often about persistent heartburn, especially at night. "Must be the coffee," she'd say, trying to laugh it off. Ashley suggested scheduling a doctor's appointment. Mary refused. She insisted she didn't need a doctor, that she was fine, just dealing with a few aches of old age. But the discomfort gradually got worse. On the day of the scare, Mary was quieter than usual. Ashley stopped by to check on her and noticed how pale her face was, the cold sweat. Still, her mother insisted. "It's just weakness, sweetie. I didn't sleep well." That night, around 2 a.m., Ashley was woken up by a phone call from a neighbor. Her mother had fainted in the bathroom. She was rushed to the hospital unconscious. A heart attack had been slowly developing, disguised as indigestion, back pain, fatigue. She had come dangerously close to being too late. Mary survived, but the emotional scar remained. In the hospital waiting room, Ashley kept repeating to herself, "If only I had insisted more. If only I had pushed her to see a doctor. If only." It's a kind of guilt that's hard to explain. Not guilt for what you did, but for what you didn't do. For trusting too much in the strength of someone you love. For hoping that if they say they're fine, they must be. Today, Mary takes daily medications, sees a cardiologist regularly, and ironically, is the one reminding her friends not to ignore any warning signs. But Ashley still carries a quiet shadow in her eyes, a memory of what she almost lost. She learned, in the hardest way, that loving also means insisting, even if it feels uncomfortable. Because sometimes the only thing standing between "I'm fine" and the end is someone who refuses to accept that answer so easily. The second chance. Robert was never one to pay much attention to his body. At 58 years old, he was still working as a logistics manager, always with his phone in hand, skipping meals, and bragging about how little he slept. He was practical, straightforward, and as he liked to say, no nonsense. But something had been different over the past few weeks. During meetings, he felt a slight pressure in his jaw. Nothing that stopped him from talking, but just enough to bother him. On some days, the symptom came with sudden sweating, even with the air conditioner on. He blamed it on stress. Too much work, too much on my mind, he told his wife Jane. It was Jane who noticed something wasn't right. You're not okay. You're different, she insisted. He always brushed it off. It's just tension. It'll be gone tomorrow. On Friday after lunch, the pressure got worse. His mouth felt heavy, his chest tightened, but there was no pain. Robert slowly stood up, walked to the balcony, and sat down. Watching from a distance, Jane saw something in his eyes she'd never seen before: fear. We're going to the hospital now, she said. For the first time, he didn't argue. They got there in time. The doctor explained that the symptoms were classic signs of a heart attack in progress, and that their quick decision had made all the difference. A few more minutes, and the outcome could have been very different. During his hospital stay, Robert mentally replayed all the little signs he'd felt. The jaw pressure, the sweating, the strange tightness in his chest. They were all there, loud and clear in hindsight. But at the time, they just seemed like background noise in an overly busy life. Today he's changed. Not just his eating habits or work routine, but the way he listens to himself and to others. I'm alive because I listen to someone who loves me, he often says. That's the kind of second chance not everyone gets. And he knows it. Jane knows it too. Sometimes, you don't need the body to scream to know something's wrong. You just need to pay attention to what keeps showing up when you finally pause for a moment. And most of all, to recognize that listening to someone who cares about you might be the bravest step you'll ever take. What changed afterward? What comes after a heart attack? For some, it's fear. For others, it's an opportunity. Abraham, 64, had always lived life in the fast lane. A businessman since he was young, he spent decades managing his own store, taking care of employees, raising his children, and supporting his wife, but never really looking after himself. Until one hot February afternoon, he felt a sudden dizziness and a sharp pain radiating from his stomach to his chest. He got medical attention just in time. One of his coronary arteries was nearly blocked. It was a close call, the doctor said. But the scare didn't paralyze him like he thought it might. It became a turning point. Abraham changed his diet, started going on regular walks, and swapped the rushed coffee at the bakery for slower moments in the backyard with his wife. What he talks about most isn't the pain or the hospital. It's learning to listen. It felt like my body was shouting, "Now it's my turn." But not everyone reacts the same way. Alice, 70, had a mild heart attack 2 years ago. She lived alone, independent and active. After the event, she went through all the tests, got medical guidance, but kept up the same fast-paced lifestyle. "I'm great, it's over," she'd say. She refused help, ignored warnings, and only took her medication when she remembered. 3 months later, she was back in the hospital, this time with a more severe heart attack. She was admitted in critical condition and has required daily care ever since. The difference between Abraham and Alice wasn't luck. It was listening. It was accepting that after a cardiac trauma, the body needs to be lived with more awareness and less urgency. It was the humility to understand that staying alive also means continuing to learn. Abraham didn't become a health nut. He became a more present man. "Before, I just wanted to get to the end of the day with everything done. Now I want to get to the end of the day with a lighter heart." Some see a scare as just a temporary inconvenience. Others see it as an invitation to change. The body doesn't scream for no reason. Every ignored symptom is a missed opportunity. And life sometimes only gives a second chance to those who choose to listen before it's too late. The one who ran out of time. Cindy still keeps the blue jacket Anthony used to wear almost every day. It's been hanging on the same hook for months, as if he might walk through the door at any moment. They had been together for 35 years. He was 61 when it all happened. Strong, active, one of those men who was always on the move. Recently retired, he spent his free time doing woodworking in the backyard and playing with the grandkids. He laughed loudly, made silly jokes, and loved Sunday barbecues. And like so many others, he always said he didn't need a doctor. In the last few months, Cindy had noticed he was napping more during the day. He complained of shoulder pain and fatigue, but chalked it up to getting older. Sometimes he'd press his hand against his chest for a few seconds, then act like nothing had happened. When she asked, he'd change the subject. "You know how it is, men don't like to seem weak," Cindy says, her voice trembling. That night, everything seemed normal. They watched a movie together, shared some popcorn, talked about a trip they were planning. In the middle of the night, she woke to a strange sound. When she turned over, she found Anthony collapsed next to the bed, unconscious. She tried to revive him, called for help, screamed for someone, anyone. But it was too late. The heart attack was massive and sudden. What remains beyond the grief is a quiet regret from both sides. Cindy for not pushing harder, and maybe him for not listening to his own body. Anthony took care of everyone except himself, she repeats, heartbroken. Today, she talks to other women her age about the signs no one should ignore. The shoulder pain, the unusual fatigue, the chest pressure that comes and goes. It seems small, seems silly, until it doesn't. Anthony's death wasn't just a loss. It was a warning. It's not easy to convince someone you love to seek help. So often they're scared, embarrassed, or simply believe there's still time. But the truth is, time doesn't let us know when it's about to run out. Cindy turned her pain into purpose. She speaks gently, but with conviction. And when she finishes telling the story, she says something that sums it all up. "If I could go back, I wouldn't accept 'I'm fine' as an answer. I would insist, argue, drag him to the doctor." Sometimes loving someone means saving them from themselves. Some stories end far too soon, but they can serve to make sure others don't end the same way. The turning point. There's one thing all these stories have in common. The signs were there. disguised as routine, hidden beneath excuses, ignored out of fear or habit, but always there. And when you listen closely to each story, what moves you isn't just the scare or the miracle of survival, it's the late awareness, the exact moment when it clicks, when the person realizes, I almost didn't make it, and I didn't even realize it. Fragments of their voices echo now, as if they were speaking to each other. I had so many warnings, and I didn't listen. If only I had pushed harder. I'm alive because I listened to someone who loves me. I can't go back, but I can warn others. Don't wait for the second scare. It may not come with a warning. It's in this weaving of lived experiences that the turning point emerges, not as an ending, but as a collective awakening. The viewer, until now simply hearing stories, starts to see themselves in them. They remember that slight chest pain that kept showing up, that strange fatigue that came out of nowhere, that refusal to go to the doctor because it'll pass. The climax isn't made of shouting. It happens in the quiet, in the moment truth gently touches consciousness. And in that instant, many people for the first time finally understand. The body doesn't speak by accident. And listening can be what separates loss from continuity. A body that speaks, a life that waits. The stories you heard today are more than tales of pain, fear, or resilience. They are an invitation to look inward, to your own experience, or to that loved one who may be ignoring the early signs. Recognizing what the body is trying to say is an act of love. Love for yourself and for those around you. Because in the end, it's not just about preventing a heart attack or avoiding an emergency. It's about caring for life in its entirety. Don't wait for the pain to become an emergency before you start listening to your body. Attention, respect, and awareness should be present in every gesture, in every symptom that arises, no matter how small. Caring for the heart also means caring for your mind, your time, and your relationships. It means understanding that no one is invincible, but everyone has the power to turn fear into care, before it's too late. You don't need to wait for the worst to happen in order to act. Small signs carry big messages. A tightness, a fatigue, a subtle change in routine. They might seem insignificant, but they can save lives. So as you close this video, take this reflection with you. If the body speaks, listen. Life is waiting for you to hear it. And remember, your attention could be the difference between a scare and a second chance story.